Hi, this is Cathy Goodwin, and today we're going to talk about the number one myth of career change. This is the first of a series about career myths. You may have heard me say, don't get advice from the corner newsstand. What that means is when you're reading the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, or your local paper, you'll see columns by reporters. What they try to do is get the most exciting hot button advice that they can find. So they'll say things like the top 10 careers for the next decade. That's interesting, but it's not especially useful, and it's often not accurate or helpful. I would add today, don't get information from business magazines. That means when you're reading the very top business magazines, even Forbes and Fortune and Business Week, they're great magazines. I read them myself. But a lot of times the information they get is based on generalizations, generalities, and by even rumors and things they've picked up along the way. You may have also heard me say, pay for advice, but information is free or could be free. What that means is when you're doing interviews for information or you're gathering information, you want to separate information and advice. It's a good idea to get interviews with people who know a field, but when you do that, get information, not advice. So let's say you want to go into banking and become a senior banking officer. You would talk to people who are in banking, in related fields, people who have maybe been recruiters in the banking industry. And you wouldn't say, well, what do you think I should do? That's advice. You would say things like, in your field, what kind of background do people have when you hire them? What does a good resume look like in your field? Who are the last 3 people you hired and what were their top qualifications? That's information. Those are facts. I would not get free advice because it's usually worth about what you paid for it. People who give advice freely tend to have agendas. They tend to have a lot of misinformation and bias. I would encourage you instead, if you want advice, to pay for it with a career coach or counselor or mentor or anyone who has a more objective view and who is really your advocate, because when you want advice, you want someone who is putting you first and not some agenda, not some company. So make sure that your information is accurate, even when you're looking for information and not advice. Here's one that I saw in a top magazine online. When you change careers, you always have to start at the bottom. Wrong. Always is a red flag. When you hear words like always and never, you say, wait a minute, something's going on here. And in this case, it's not even true. When you want to enter a new field, you could often enter sideways through a series of bridge jobs. For example, Em was a lawyer in private practice. She loved animals and wanted to work with them full time. So she did this in 3 steps. Step 1, she was a volunteer pro bono lawyer with a specific animal protection agency. And she got herself licensed as an animal control officer to give herself some status and some credibility. In the second step, she was invited to become an assistant director of the agency. She assisted the director, and she not only brought her legal background and her experience with animal control, but she was able to learn some of the functions that she didn't know about. Step 3, she networked, and she was invited to direct an agency. So she then became the director of a nonprofit agency that served protection of animals. That was her goal, and that's how she met it. She didn't have to start at the bottom. In conclusion, what I want you to take away, besides the specific myth, is don't listen to what everybody says. Journalists, even at top media outlets, rarely are familiar with career strategy. I've been interviewed by journalists many times, and they often want to get to accurate information, but they really have to work with a spin that's going to make people's eyes pop, and that is a higher priority for them than getting specific straight career advice, which is not really their job. Always, never, must, and should are red flag words that always should be investigated. This message was brought to you by me, Cathy Goodwin. Win the first inning of your second career. The first link here takes you to my website, midlifecareerstrategy.com. The second link, budurl.com/career show, takes you to my recently revised ebook, Your 21-Day Extreme Career Makeover, which gives you accurate, complete advice and information about career change. Thanks for joining me today, and I look forward to seeing you again on a future call.